Ladies and gentlemen, when we speak of heart disease, the conversation nearly always begins and often ends with cholesterol. Numbers on a blood test have become the sole narrative of cardiovascular health. Yet the most dangerous heart risk, the one that silently claims more lives than any molecule on your lipid panel, is rarely measured, let alone discussed. It is not cholesterol. It is the unchecked, relentless storm of chronic stress and imbalance within your nervous system. Consider this paradox. How is it possible that individuals with low cholesterol still suffer heart attacks, while others with higher cholesterol live long, vibrant lives? If cholesterol were the true villain, such contradiction should not exist. The answer lies deeper, in the way our bodies process life itself, in the ongoing dialogue between stress and calm, tension and release. The human nervous system is divided into two branches, the sympathetic, which prepares us for action, and the parasympathetic, which restores and heals. In moments of danger, the sympathetic system surges, quickening the pulse, constricting vessels, mobilizing sugar and fats to fuel survival. This is life-saving in short bursts. But when modern life traps us in this state perpetually through deadlines, worries, screens, noise, the body pays a silent but devastating toll. Unlike cholesterol, which is measurable and easily targeted with medication, the effects of chronic stress accumulate invisibly. Blood vessels stiffen, blood pressure rises, inflammation smolders, and the very rhythm of the heart becomes unstable. What medicine often labels as sudden cardiac events are in reality the culmination of years of living in a body governed by fear, urgency, and imbalance. The tragedy is not just biological but philosophical. We have come to see health as numbers, charts, and prescriptions. We ask not, am I living in Bali? But what pill can fix my score? Yet the heart does not merely beat for numbers, it beats for harmony. It beats to integrate our inner life with the outer world. When we ignore this truth, when we silence symptoms with chemicals but never address causes, we trade temporary reassurance for long-term decline. So, if your doctor never checks this risk, does that mean you are helpless? No, it means you must become your own guardian of balance. You must learn to pause, to breathe deeply, to nourish your body not only with food, but with rest and silence. You must learn to recognize that endless striving corrodes the very organ you depend upon to sustain life. True heart health is not about lowering cholesterol at any cost. It is about cultivating resilience, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It is about choosing harmony over haste, presence over panic, restoration over relentless drive. If we begin to live with this awareness, then we shift from merely avoiding disease to embodying vitality. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest heart risk is not what shows up on your blood test. It is what accumulates in the shadows of your daily life. And the greatest medicine is not a pill, but the wisdom to live in balance. Thank you. The number one overlooked heart risk is not cholesterol. It is the unrelenting weight of chronic stress and the imbalance it creates within the autonomic nervous system. While cholesterol has been vilified for decades and reduced to a single number on a lab report, stress is the silent destroyer that rarely receives the same scrutiny. The body is designed to endure short bursts of challenge, moments where the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, kicks in to protect us. But when this state becomes the default, when the system of balance between stress and recovery is hijacked by constant pressure, the consequences ripple through every cell of the body, especially the heart. Stress is not just an emotional burden, it is a physiological cascade. Cortisol rises, adrenaline surges, blood pressure elevates, and vessels constrict. Over time, this persistent state of tension wears away at the very structures that support life. Arteries stiffen, the lining of blood vessels inflames, and the heart is forced to work harder against resistance. These are not isolated events, but ongoing patterns that slowly weaken resilience. A person may appear outwardly healthy, eat well, and even maintain excellent cholesterol numbers, yet inside the nervous system is trapped in overdrive and the heart is quietly paying the price. The danger lies in its invisibility. Stress does not show up on a standard cholesterol panel, nor does it announce itself in neat, measurable figures. Instead, it manifests subtly in poor sleep, irritability, fatigue, digestive disturbances, and tension in the body. These clues are often dismissed as minor inconveniences, but in truth, they are signals of imbalance. The medical model that prioritizes numbers often misses this deeper reality. The nervous system is the ultimate regulator of cardiovascular health, and when it is unbalanced, no lab result can capture the full extent of the damage. Psychologically, this is profound because it challenges the way we perceive health. We are conditioned to place our faith in numbers and tests, to look for external validation of safety. If our cholesterol is normal, we feel secure, even if our lives are saturated with anxiety, deadlines, and unresolved emotional turmoil. But this security is an illusion. The nervous system does not negotiate with numbers, it reacts to experience. The lived reality of constant pressure is far more predictive of cardiovascular risk than the numerical comfort of a blood test. Philosophically, stress represents a misalignment between the demands of life and the capacity of the human spirit to meet them. It is the erosion of harmony, the breakdown of the rhythm that should govern existence. The heart is not merely a pump, it is the instrument that responds to the music of our lives. When the music is frantic, dissonant, and unrelenting, the instrument falters. Cholesterol may play a part, but it is only one note. The real composition is orchestrated by balance, by the interplay of rest and exertion, stillness and movement. When this orchestration is disrupted by stress, the melody of health collapses into noise, and the heart bears the cost. Thus, the true number one heart risk, rarely checked, rarely addressed, is not cholesterol, but the chronic imbalance that stress creates. It is a risk that medicine cannot fully measure, yet one that we must all learn to recognize and master. Modern medicine has achieved extraordinary advances in diagnosing, monitoring, and treating disease, yet it often falls into the trap of focusing on numbers instead of root causes. When it comes to heart health, the spotlight almost always shines on cholesterol, blood pressure, and other quantifiable markers. These figures are easy to measure, easy to track, and easy to medicate. But therein lies the problem. By narrowing health into numerical targets, medicine risks overlooking the broader picture of human well-being and the invisible factors that truly dictate cardiovascular outcomes. This obsession with numbers creates a dangerous blind spot. A patient can walk out of a doctor's office feeling reassured because their cholesterol levels, blood sugar, and triglycerides all fall within the normal range. Yet that same patient may live under chronic stress, experience poor sleep, suppress emotional burdens, and consume a lifestyle of imbalance that silently erodes the heart. Because these risks cannot be easily measured on a blood test or recorded on a chart, they are often ignored. Medicine, in its attempt to simplify health, sometimes oversimplifies it to the point of missing what matters most. There is also a psychological comfort in numbers. Patients and doctors alike feel secure when there are values to track and targets to reach. It gives the illusion of control, as if the complexity of human life can be reduced to digits on a page. But health is not merely the absence of abnormal lab results. It is the presence of balance, vitality, and resilience. A person may achieve a perfect lipid panel through medication, yet still be living in a body ravaged by tension and a nervous system locked in survival mode. Numbers can tell part of the story, but they cannot capture the lived experience of chronic imbalance. Philosophically, this raises a profound question, Are we treating health or are we treating statistics? Medicine often excels at crisis management, at rescuing the body when it reaches the point of collapse. But prevention requires looking beyond the obvious, beyond what can be measured in milligrams per deciliter. Prevention demands an understanding of how lifestyle, emotions, and psychology intertwine with biology. The nervous system, for instance, is the invisible conductor of cardiovascular function, regulating heart rate, blood vessel tone, and hormonal balance. Yet most checkups never ask, is this person living in constant fight or flight? Is their system allowed to rest and repair? By focusing primarily on cholesterol, medicine sometimes treats the symptom rather than the cause. Elevated cholesterol may be a byproduct of inflammation, stress, or metabolic dysfunction, yet the treatment often stops at lowering the number. This is like silencing a smoke alarm without extinguishing the fire. True health requires asking why the alarm sounded in the first place. Without addressing root causes, the underlying risk persists, and patients remain vulnerable despite seemingly good numbers. Therefore, the second great truth is this: modern medicine's preoccupation with measurable data blinds us to the deeper drivers of disease. Until we shift our focus from numbers to causes, from measurement to meaning, we will continue to miss the hidden threats that undermine heart health. The nervous system is the true regulator of heart health, and its balance or imbalance determines long-term cardiovascular outcomes in ways that cholesterol alone never could. At the core of this regulation lies the dynamic relationship between the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system. These two forces are like opposing currents in a river. One drives urgency and action, the other restores calm and repair. Together, they are meant to create a harmonious flow. Yet in the modern world, this balance is disrupted. The sympathetic branch, designed for short bursts of fight or flight, has become chronically dominant, leaving the parasympathetic, the system of healing and recovery, suppressed and silent. This imbalance is not merely theoretical, it is deeply physiological. The sympathetic system accelerates heart rate, raises blood pressure, and constricts blood vessels, preparing the body to confront threats. In moderation, this is protective, even essential. But when these responses are prolonged, they strain the cardiovascular system in ways that slowly erode resilience. The parasympathetic system, by contrast, slows the heart, expands blood vessels, and promotes digestion and cellular repair. It is the state of rest, rejuvenation, and longevity. Without its influence, the body lives in a perpetual state of wear, unable to fully recover from the daily grind of existence. Imagine a person who lives under constant deadlines, exposure to noise, social pressures, and digital overstimulation. Outwardly, this may appear as simply a busy life, but internally, the nervous system is locked in high gear. The heart beats faster, blood vessels remain tense, and stress hormones bathe tissues continuously. This state may not show up as high cholesterol or any abnormal lab values, yet it silently builds the foundation for heart disease. Over time, Tsendai says, the imbalance between sympathetic dominance and parasympathetic suppression makes the body more vulnerable to arrhythmias, hypertension, and even sudden cardiac events. Psychologically, this imbalance is significant because it mirrors the inner condition of human life. When we live without balance, when we chase without pause, when we fail to cultivate silence, we set the stage for physical breakdown. The heart becomes the mirror of the mind. If the mind is restless, anxious, and unrelenting, the heart reflects that unrest in its rhythm and tone. Conversely, a mind that knows peace, presence, and balance fosters a heart that beats with steadiness and strength. The nervous system, therefore, is the bridge between psychology and physiology, between the intangible world of thought and the tangible world of biology. Philosophically, this reveals a profound truth. Health is not merely the absence of disease, but the presence of balance. To ignore the role of the nervous system is to ignore the essence of human vitality. Numbers may give reassurance, but they do not capture whether a person is living in alignment with the rhythms of nature and the needs of the body. True cardiovascular health is born from the harmony of action and rest, effort and recovery, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Without this harmony, even the best lab results cannot shield a person from eventual decline. Thus, the nervous system is the hidden governor of the heart, the unseen factor that shapes destiny. It is not cholesterol, but the chronic imbalance of this system that often dictates whether a heart thrives or falters. Chronic stress is one of the most underestimated forces shaping the destiny of the human heart. Unlike cholesterol, which is easily measured and managed with medication, stress is intangible, elusive, and difficult to quantify. Yet it weaves its way into every heartbeat, every blood vessel, and every system of the body. Its effects are cumulative, not explosive, eroding health silently over the years until one day the body reaches its breaking point. It is no coincidence that many so-called sudden cardiac events occur not during physical exertion, but in moments of emotional upheaval, an argument, a wave of grief, a crushing burden of responsibility. Stress leaves fingerprints on the heart long before the final event reveals its presence. Physiologically, chronic stress is a state of ongoing emergency. The sympathetic nervous system, designed to activate in short bursts, becomes locked in the on position. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline circulate endlessly, raising blood pressure, increasing blood sugar, and causing the liver to release fats into the bloodstream. Blood vessels constrict and lose their elasticity, making circulation less efficient. The heart is forced to pump harder, often against increased resistance. In this environment, the very tissues of the cardiovascular system begin to degrade. Inflammation simmers below the surface, destabilizing arterial walls and setting the stage for plaque rupture or clot formation. What makes this risk particularly insidious is its invisibility. A person may have impeccable cholesterol levels, exercise regularly, and eat a balanced diet, yet still live under a relentless tide of stress that undermines all other efforts. The damage accumulates quietly without obvious warning signs until it manifests as fatigue, chest pain, or a life-threatening event. In the language of modern medicine, stress is rarely treated as a primary risk factor, but in truth, it is the soil in which all other risks grow. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes often find their roots in lives burdened by chronic tension and lack of recovery. Psychologically, stress is not simply a reaction to events, but a way of inhabiting the world. Some people live in constant anticipation of problems, unable to rest even in moments of safety. Others bury emotions, carrying unspoken fears or unresolved conflicts that weigh on the nervous system. This internal unrest translates directly into physical strain. The heart, sensitive and responsive, does not distinguish between a physical predator and the predator of unrelenting worry. To the body, stress is stress, and the cost is the same. Philosophically, the dominance of stress in modern life reflects a deeper cultural imbalance. We have glorified busyness and productivity, equating constant activity with worth and success. In doing so, we have neglected the restorative powers of stillness, silence, and rest. The heart is not a machine designed to run endlessly at maximum output. It is an instrument that requires rhythm, pauses, and recovery. When we strip life of balance, when we value output over harmony, the heart bears the burden until it can no longer sustain the load. Thus, chronic stress is the hidden architect of heart disease, building silently and invisibly over time. Cholesterol may be a character in the story, but stress is often the author. Until we recognize and address the corrosive effects of stress, true prevention will remain out of reach, and the heart will continue to suffer in silence. True prevention of heart disease requires a shift in consciousness, a recognition that health is not merely the manipulation of numbers, but the mastery of lifestyle and the cultivation of balance between mind and body. When medicine looks only at cholesterol, blood pressure, or glucose, it provides information but not transformation. Transformation comes when we understand that the heart does not exist in isolation. It is a mirror of how we live, how we think, and how we manage the demands of existence. No pill, no surgery, no laboratory test can substitute for the daily choices that either build resilience or chip away at it. Awareness is the first step. To prevent heart disease, one must first recognize the invisible forces that shape health: stress, sleep, emotional well-being, and the quality of rest and recovery. Without awareness, life becomes reactive, a continuous rush from one demand to another. But with awareness, one begins to see patterns. the tension that never fades, the late nights that erode vitality, the shallow breathing that signals unrelenting pressure. These are not trivial details, but warnings, messages from the body that balance is being lost. Ignoring them is not neutrality, it is negligence toward one's own survival. From awareness must come deliberate lifestyle mastery. This does not mean following rigid programs or obsessing over perfection. It means learning to create harmony between effort and rest, nourishment and fasting, work and silence. It means choosing foods that truly sustain, moving the body not just for exercise but for vitality, and prioritizing restorative sleep as the foundation of repair. It also means learning the art of slowing down, of breathing deeply, of allowing the nervous system to return to calm so that the parasympathetic branch, the healer within, can do its work. These are not luxuries, but necessities for a heart too. HAT is expected to beat billions of times in a lifetime. Equally important is the alignment of mind and body. The heart does not simply respond to physical strain. It echoes the weight of unprocessed emotions, unresolved conflicts, and a restless mind. A life of chronic worry or unrelieved anxiety is a constant drain on the heart, just as surely as poor diet or lack of exercise. Cultivating mental resilience through mindfulness, gratitude, reflection, or spiritual practice is as vital as any physical habit. When the mind is calm, the body follows. When the spirit is grounded, the heart beats with steadiness. Philosophically, this calls us to redefine prevention itself. Prevention is not simply avoiding illness, it is the pursuit of vitality, the conscious shaping of a life that fosters harmony. It is an active daily practice of living in alignment with natural rhythms rather than fighting against them. To prevent heart disease is to prevent imbalance, to prevent disconnection from the self. It is to embrace wholeness as the foundation of health. Therefore, true prevention is not found in numbers or pills, but in wisdom. The wisdom to live with balance, to honor both effort and rest, to cultivate both strength and stillness. When we live in this way, we not only reduce risk, but unlock the possibility of a long life filled with clarity, energy, and peace. The greatest medicine ultimately is the mastery of how we live each day